State of Business and on Television with me, Thirantha Gunawardana. Let's take a look at today's top stories first. Voting time for presidential poll extended by 1 hour. Cabinet nods to $480 million Millennium Challenge Corporation grant. In your top story today, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal for the implementation of the $480 million worth Millennium Challenge Corporation grant, which was proposed by the Minister of Finance, Mangala Samarveera. The Minister of Finance announced that the MCC grant consists of grant funds for traffic management in Colombo, road construction island-wide, and land administration improvements covering the whole country.
Issuing a communique, the Minister of Finance announced that the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal by Finance Minister Mangala Samarveera to implement the $480 million worth Millennium Challenge Corporation grant. The Finance Ministry letter says that these compact programs to be funded by the MCC project have been developed by the Sri Lankan officials of the line ministries and departments based on the needs of the country. It also says that the Sri Lankan government has the option of amending the identified projects even after the signing of the agreement. Sri Lanka is the 37th recipient of such grant funds from the people of United States of America, and the Minister of Finance will sign the agreement in the near future and the implementation will begin in early 2020. The Finance Ministry also says that Sri Lanka began negotiation with MCC in 2001 at the direction of Ranil Wickremesinghe, the then Prime Minister.
Now let's look at the latest political updates from the Next President segment. The Commission of Elections announced that the voting duration for the presidential election has been extended from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. considering the length of the ballot paper.
Elections Commissioner General Saman Sri Ratnayaka said that after considering the length of the ballot paper, the Commission decided to extend the voting duration for the presidential election from 1 hour. Commissioner General of Elections Ratnayaka also said that the change was already communicated to the political party representatives during the meeting held with them at the EC office this morning. He also added that all the presidential candidates and party officials agreed to the proposal to extend the voting time considering inconvenience faced by people in finding time. The ballot paper of the presidential election 2019 would be 2 feet long with 35 candidates contesting the election, and the Gazette notification in relation to new change will be issued tomorrow.
Former Central Bank Governor Ajit Nivard Kabral states that the current government's imprudent economic decisions, such as increasing the tax to GDP and withdrawing developmental projects of the previous regime, has made the entire economic system topsy-turvy. The former governor made this assertion speaking at a recent public platform titled Financially Sustainable Economic Development, organized to support SLPP presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
We are experiencing something new. Why did that happen? Why did we start losing? What happened? But what really are the key factors that brought us to this level? One is the government went and did what the IMF said as far as taxes are concerned. They also told us, I remember, I have been contact point with IMF for the last 9 years during our time, and they used to come and tell us, increase the taxes. Your tax to GDP is not enough. Then I heard Ranil Wickremesinghe saying this, tax to GDP is not enough. Then I knew people don't really know what tax to GDP means. They also started clapping. They said, great, we have to now increase the tax to GDP. When you increase the tax to GDP ratio, they're actually taking the money off your pocket. So you are clapping for somebody to come and take the money off your pocket. And they did. They came, put a super gains tax, took 60 billion rupees. Do you know what 60 billion rupees means? When you take 60 billion rupees out of the private sector, you are really taking away projects for 200 billion, because the private sector would have used the 60 billion, leveraged it with another 140 billion, done projects for 200 billion, which would have been 2% of GDP. Now, when you remove that, take it away, you lose the momentum. Then, not only did they do that, they went and said, we'll stop the hotel projects, we'll stop the port city. What happened? The whole thing just came crashing down. Then another thing happened. They increased the interest rate by 3% just on the day of the bond scam. From 9.5%, it shot up to 12.5%. We told people, look, don't do this. If you want to take something out, do something different, but don't upset the entire interest rate structure in the country. But when you do that, it was not the 30-year only. 30-year-old treasury bonds is not the only area where they got into trouble. The entire rate structure, the entire yield curve in the country went up.
New Democratic Front presidential candidate Minister Sajid Premadasa says that November 16th is the beginning of a historic era that gives youth great strength and confidence to stand on their own feet. Speaking at an event to sign a social charter for the youth at the Sukhatadasa Stadium yesterday, Minister Premadasa assured to extensively use the talents and visions of the younger generation in the development process of the country.
The Youth Forum, which had been organized under the theme Together Forward Transformation of Youth, was held in Colombo yesterday, and NDF candidate Minister Sajid Premadasa signed the Youth Charter, a document prepared by youths representing all the 9 provinces of the country. Minister Premadasa also said that the aim and responsibility of creating this charter is to give youth the leadership of the country's journey towards sustainable development through the use of youth's vigor and energy. NDF presidential candidate also noted that a government led by him seeks to ensure a rapid trend of development, and the responsibility of bringing to realization this task will be entrusted with the youth who can think outside of the box. He also assured to give a legal validation for the Youth Charter, enabling the youth in a meaningful developmental work process. At the same time, he also urged the youth to give strength to the Sri Lanka First journey to create a prosperous motherland.
Time for us to go in for a short commercial break. Do stay tuned for more news after this. Welcome back. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka yesterday called for a holistic approach to drive micro and small and medium enterprises via greater coordination and cooperation among promoting agencies, as markets remain the biggest challenge for smaller entrepreneurs and businesses.
32nd Annual Conference of Asian Credit Supplementation Institutions Confederation was held in Colombo yesterday, as hosted by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, who participated at the event as the chief guest, highlighted that the country has a plethora of institutions for small and medium-scale enterprises, but cooperation and collaboration still remain a challenge. He pointed out that currently as much as 75% of Sri Lanka's businesses were SMEs, which provide 45% of employment and constitute 52% of the country's gross domestic product. He further elaborated that micro, small and medium enterprises account for 1 million business establishments and provide employment to 2.3 million people, according to the Industry and Commerce Ministry. Accordingly, Dr. Kumaraswamy stressed that rationalizing the institution structure is important to ensure that there is strong cooperation and coordination across these different institutions. He also raised the fact that the financing opportunities remain difficult, with high interest rates and emphasis on collateral by loan givers constraining MSME and SME development.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy also pointed out that the central bank had continued to facilitate insurance, finance and credit guarantee schemes funded by the government and foreign sources. Dr. Kumaraswamy stressed that 9 finance schemes and 2 interest subsidy schemes are at present overseen by the central bank in order to further the quest for affordable access to finance.
Dr. Kumaraswamy, addressing the 32nd Annual Conference of Asian Credit Supplementation Institutions Confederation held in Colombo yesterday, said that the central bank also provides a range of credit supplementary schemes across the country. He pointed out that credit guarantee schemes include the Comprehensive Rural Subsidy Scheme, partial government guarantee schemes for loans under 1.5 million rupees, and credit guarantees for exporters. He also added that the credit insurance and crop insurance schemes, as well as customized export insurance schemes, are also included under these measures. Meanwhile, Portugal Agrocurrent MGS chairman and coordinator Jose Fernando Figueiredo, who was also appointed the executive president of IFT, the Portuguese SME Promotional Financing Institution, in 2015, addressing the forum outlined the need for financing to be aligned with global challenges such as mitigating climate change. The central bank in June launched the Roadmap for Sustainable Finance to encourage the financial system to promote financing for climate resilience projects to combat climate change in Sri Lanka. Figueiredo also emphasized the need for central banks and the financial system as a whole to define risk differently so that climate change is established at the center of risk management and countries or businesses that plan with climate change within their policies are supported.
In more developments, the Emirates President Tim Clark says that Sri Lanka's tourism sector needs to forget old-fashioned travel trade shows but look at how the Sri Lankan story can be told in the new world of digital advocacy and Google search wars. The Emirates President made these remarks delivering his keynote address at the annual general meeting of Hotels Association of Sri Lanka last week in Colombo.
The Emirates chief Tim Clark emphasized Sri Lanka has so much to offer, but Sri Lanka has to believe in its product and the potential and work together to make things happen. He also stressed that the country must collectively galvanize for the next tourism renaissance for this amazing country at a function where Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe participated as the chief guest. The Emirates chief also said that no one is going to know the wonderful things happening in Sri Lanka unless the country goes for a vibrant marketing campaign. He also added the quote begins, "Think big, think visual, consider the use of celebrities for global impact if necessary. Then get the world out. Forget old-fashioned travel trade shows and look at how the Sri Lanka story can be told in the new world of digital advocacy and Google search wars. Be creative." Quote ends. Listing several global terror attacks in major tourist destinations, Clark said all have bounced back. He said the Easter Sunday terror attacks are a terrible one-off setback in the history of Sri Lanka, but the country has what it takes to not only recover but to shine bright again in the global tourism stage. He also added that his message is pull together, galvanize resources, and forge ahead.
The finalists of the Bocuse d'Or Sri Lanka 2019 Culinary Competition were announced yesterday. The press conference to announce the finalists and details of the competition was held under the patronage of Minister of Tourism and Christian Development Affairs John Amaratunga in Colombo yesterday.
Bocuse d'Or Sri Lanka, an organization dedicated to fine cuisine and chefs, is committed to uplifting culinary standards of Sri Lanka. Thus, participating chefs have received extensive preparation under the guidance of world-class chefs. The competitors will represent Sri Lanka at the Bocuse d'Or Asia Finals on November 12, 2019. The first masterclass with Bocuse d'Or Sri Lanka featured Michelin-starred and Bocuse d'Or silver medalist Chef Roland Debeist.
I am delighted to be here, participate in the most prestigious culinary competition in the world. It's not the competition, but it's the introduction. Bocuse d'Or Sri Lanka 2019 to identify the nation's top culinary persons. This I consider is of utmost importance for a country who is trying to depend on tourism for the development of its economy. I am thankful to the French ambassador taking a great deal of interest to invite his top chefs here in order to give their experience and part with their knowledge, more particularly to our young generation who is now moving into the tourism industry in order to find existence, career in tourism, particularly in the culinary field.
Addressing the same event, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau, Kishu Gomes, highlighted how culinary competitions like the Bocuse d'Or Sri Lanka 2019 will be beneficial to the country from an economic standpoint.
We're not a large country where we will be able to accommodate 5 million to 10 million tourists. So therefore, our strategy should be to drive margins. And in order to drive margins, obviously, we need to create a richer culinary culture within which we should be able to earn the right margins by selling food food that's branded, presented in a different way, unique way, to be able to get that traction and thereby the revenue we desire. From another perspective, we being as a country exporting labor. And this is something that has been happening in the country for quite a long time. We've been exporting housemaids, carpenters, plumbers, and literally, people for labor. And in the hotel industry or hospitality industry, we've been losing people to other countries, and this has been a complaint by the industry here. But if we are able to produce the right talent, right caliber, right quality, there is certainly no harm in exporting talent at that level to be able to fetch the right price to earn the revenue we want to achieve. Sri Lanka is known for good food, no question about it. We've been getting a lot of attention on our culinary expertise and various authentic cuisines we've been selling, but obviously we have a very, very long way to go.
Stocks ended in the green today. More on that after this short commercial break. Welcome back. Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The All-Share Price Index gained 18.17 points to close at 5,964.25, and the S&P SL 20 gained 10.53 points to close at 2,951.39. Turnover was 639 million rupees and over 53 million shares were traded. Up next are today's Forex trades. And that's all the news we have for you today. Do join us tomorrow at the same time for more of the very latest on State of Business. Until then, take care.